In this tutorial, I'm going to go through and I'm going to create textures for my column. All right, and so previously I had gone through and taken my column, I named it, and I created name selection sets. So here's what I'm going to do. I have my column LP selected. I'm going to add an extra edit poly on there. Do File, Export Selected, and then in that same column folder that I have, I'm going to save it as column, oops, underscore LP. I'm going to save that as a Autodesk FBX file, so it's .fbx. So hit save. And then let's see. So I want to start off with media and entertainment as my settings. Make sure we turn off animation under geometry. Okay, turn on smoothing groups. Say OK. I'm going to right click and hide that. And now I'm going to select my column high poly. No edit poly on that. I'll just say File, Export Selected, and now I'm going to name this column underscore HP and say Save. Okay. Now, the column HP, it's a high poly model. It doesn't have to have UVs. The model that needs to have UVs is the low poly, and we know it does because we already made that one. So I'm going to pause the tutorial and I'm going to load Substance Painter now. All right, Substance Painter's loaded. It is almost always going to ask you if you want to update to the latest version. I'm not going to. I'm just going to run with what I have. Then it has the welcome menu. I'm going to go ahead and close that. So what I'm going to do now, here in Substance Painter, we're going to go up to File, New, and I'm going to use a template. I'm going to use the Unreal Engine 4. And under File, I'm going to click Hismax 2021, Scenes, Benjamin, Spline Column. And I want to select my column low poly, right? Column underscore LP and click Open. I'm going to make my textures 1024. And I'm going to click OK. Now that should load in my model. There it is. There's my model. If I click here and hit F, you'll see there's the UV layout. If I hold Alt, I can click an orbit around my model. So the first thing we got to do is generate our textures, right? So we're going to go find texture set settings. My layout may be slightly different from the default, so you just find where texture set settings is. And in there, there's an option for mesh maps. You see this big list. We're going to fill that in right now. And so I'm going to click Bake Mesh Maps. I'm going to change the output size to 1024. And now here under Common Parameters, I'm going to go High Poly Parameters. I'm going to click this little button, this little page, and that's going to allow me to select my high poly model. And now I can just click Bake Default Material Mesh Maps. And you can see it's running through really quick, and it's generating all of these image files. If you scroll through them, you can see them all here. And so now, look at how my column, it looks so much different because it's getting all of that high poly, all that NURMS detail is making this look so much nicer and cleaner. And what we could do now is over here under layers, we can put a material onto our model. All right, and so if we find there's this concrete simple, I can just put that right on there. And now I have this nice material on there. If you hold Shift and the right mouse button, you can rotate the background image to light your model. All right. I'm going to remove that. There's also a thing known as Smart Materials. You can download Smart Materials and you can make your own. And what they are is they use materials and these other things called generators in order to create more complicated materials. So if I open this up, you'll see this uses a bronze base and some corrosion and levels. So there's a lot to Substance Painter. I'm really just showing you kind of like the very simple stuff. Now it will, there's a good chance it's going to crash on you. So make sure you save and save often. Like here I could throw this brass old. So there's all sorts of fantastic different just simple materials. You put them on there, you hold shift and the right mouse button and it's going to rotate. Now your model is not going to look like this in 3ds Max. It's not set up to draw models like this. So we'll want to just save these files and take snips and turn this in, and we're going to export out our textures. Okay, so let's get a good one on here. Some of these that I'm putting on may not be ones that you have. That's okay. Let's find, I think I have like a, let's put the cement tool on there and see what that looks like. That looks neat. I like how that one looks. So this is what I'm going to go ahead and use. So I'm just going to hit File, Save. I'm going to save it in the same folder. Now keep in mind, substance files are rather large. They do take up a lot of memory. And now I'm going to do File, Export Textures, and then I just need to specify that same folder. Select it, and I'm going to go with the Unreal 4 and just hit Export. All right. So I can take a snip and turn this in, and if we look in our Documents folder, here's our textures. So if I open it up, this first one, this is our base color. This is our normal map. This is image-based lighting information, or pixel, yeah, image-based. And then this is actually what we call a packed map. All right. Each one of the channels, red, green, and blue, has different bits of information that are going to be applied to the model. So what we want to do here is just rename these real quick. So we're going to stick with the name column, but then we're going to do underscore BC for base color, column underscore N for normal. And this last one, since it is the occlusion, roughness, and metallic, we're going to call it AORM for ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. So there we go. Now there's our column. It has those textures on it. It's all set. We can just close this, and now we have a texture. So now you know how you can bring in a model, bring in a high poly, bake it out, and get textures.